Today's video is a little bit different from my normal content. We usually make these really perfect desserts with a bunch of components in them, but today's recipe is a little bit more rustic. Today I am sharing with you my XL pound cake. This is one of those recipes that like your grandmother's grandmother has handed down to several generations. Since I'm your grandmother, except I don't have any kids, but this recipe can be my legacy. This is the most perfect pound cake you will ever taste, and it is completely gluten-free. Unless you don't want it to be gluten-free, then you don't have to make it gluten-free. But get your notebooks out and let's get started.
See you today and going tomorrow.
For this recipe, you will need a few things. One of them is almond flour. I know almond flour is a pantry staple for all of my bakers out there, but if you do not keep almond flour in hand, I suggest you go to Costco because they have the best price, and keep a bag in your pantry at all times. It is so useful, especially when you're baking. It helps you to make a bunch of recipes gluten-free, and also it has the most perfect, delicate almond bite and texture. The next thing that you will need is gluten-free flour. My go-to gluten-free flour blend is the King Arthur one. I get this bag off of Amazon. It's like $7 or $8 and it's a huge bag. It's such good quality and it just melts into any cake that you make. You are also going to need buttermilk or sour cream. The acidity in this component breaks down the proteins and gives you a super tender cake. And lastly, you will need some honey. Honey is a super stable sugar, very similar to trimoline or inverted sugar. It helps to create that stability, which gives this cake a super long shelf life and adds so much moisture. So that's that. Let's get started. In the bowl of a stand mixer, we are going to place 339 grams or 3 sticks of room temperature butter. Please do not play with me. Make sure that your butter is at room temperature. We are also adding in 250 grams or 1.5 cups of sugar and 170 grams or half a cup of honey, as well as 1 teaspoon or 4 grams of kosher salt and 2 teaspoons or 6 grams of vanilla extract, and we are going to paddle this all together. We are not going to paddle this for 1 minute or 2 minutes or even 3 minutes. We are going to paddle this for 7 minutes. It is very important that you paddle a lot of air into the butter and sugar, making it super light and fluffy. That's because we are using baking powder as a leavening agent in this recipe, and you guys all know by now that baking powder only works by inflating pre-existing bubbles. So there must already be some air in order for the baking powder to work properly. While that's paddling, let's combine our dry ingredients. In a separate bowl, we are going to whisk together 2 cups or 225 grams of almond flour, 1 cup or 130 grams of gluten-free flour, or regular flour if you want to be lame, and 1 tablespoon or 8 grams of baking powder, and whisk that together really well so that everything is evenly dispersed. Now back to our stand mixer. Once the butter and sugar is super light and fluffy, it'll take about 7 minutes. I did time it. We are going to begin adding 5 eggs in one by one, making sure that each egg is fully incorporated before we add in another. You can stop the machine a few times to scrape down the edges to really make sure that everything is well incorporated. Once you've added in all of your eggs, your batter will most likely split. That's because we've added in a lot of water from the eggs, and we know that water and fat do not mix together. But it'll be fine, it is totally normal. Now we are going to begin to alternate between wet and dry. Our dry mixture is the flours that we whisk together, and our wet ingredient is 240 grams or 1 cup of buttermilk. So you're going to have 3 additions of dry and then 2 additions of wet. Then just beat the batter on high speed for a few seconds until everything is smooth. It won't be completely smooth because the almond flour does have some texture, but you'll know when it's ready to go. And the great thing about this batter is since we used a rice flour blend, you can't overdevelop the gluten or build a tough cake because there is none unless you use regular flour. And that's it, our batter is all done. Now, when I said XL pound cake, I meant extra large. This is a large loaf pan from, I believe, Wilton. I did get it on Amazon. I will also link it in the description bar below. And I believe this set comes with 2 loaf pans, which is great. This recipe will make 2 standard loaf tins or 1 extra large loaf. So oil your loaf pan really well and then add all of that batter in. Give it a few few taps just to make sure that there's no air pockets in there. And this can bake at 325 for around 45 minutes to 1 hour. It takes a very long time to cook. Now, while our pound cake is in the oven baking, we are going to make a quick apricot glaze, which is just 3 tablespoons of apricot jam. I'm using the Bon Maman brand. I hate like saying things wrong, so please don't. I really don't have a good French accent. We're gonna combine the water and the apricot jam and then just gently begin to warm it up over low heat until the mixture becomes fluid, and then we're gonna strain out any larger pieces. Apricot glaze is perfect for cakes like this because you brush a thin layer over the top, and it really helps to prevent your cake from drying out, so it just stays moist for even longer. I cut the caramelization off of the edges of the pound cake just so that you guys can see how like tender and moist it is. Then I am generously brushing all of that apricot glaze over the top. I recently switched all of my bristle brushes to this set from Amazon as well. This set comes with 2 rubber spatulas and then 4 silicone brushes, and it was literally like $10. And I do have a code, you guys. I will link it here, or I can't even take myself seriously right now. Like, not me being an influencer, but if you want to save extra money, you can use my code for an extra 20% off. And now you can totally stop here and dig in, but you guys know that I have to overcomplicate everything. Like, I just have to. So we are going to be making a quick cream cheese whipped cream, cream cheese cream, creamy cream cheese cream, which is just 1 cup or 240 grams of whipped cream, 90 grams or 1.5 cups of whipped cream cheese, and 50 grams or 1/4 cup of confection sugar, and then just give that a quick whip until it reaches a medium peak. Then you can place this into a piping bag fitted with a St. Honore tip, pipe the cream all over the top of the loaf cake, and we are ready to dig in.
Touch me. I only love it when you touch me. I only love it when you touch me. I only love it when you touch me. Now feel me, yeah. I only love it when you touch me. I only love it when you touch me.
Okay guys, that is it for another recipe. I can just feel the moisture coming off of the surface of this cake. You guys, go get your cookbooks right now, write this recipe down, and pass it down for generations to come. I swear this pound cake is everything. It is moist, it is tender, it has such a perfect texture and bite, and it is the perfect amount of sweetness. You can slice this pound cake up, saran wrap it, and freeze it for up to 2 months, but I guarantee you guys it will not last that long. I got a request to do more personal videos, like how I got started in the industry and how I became a pastry chef. So if you guys have any like industry questions for me, send me a DM on Instagram, and I will see you guys in the next video.
I only love it when you touch me.